Tell me about this. It's here we are, Thursday, the 9th of April. Tell me about your coffee clutch that you go to, that you don't go to.
Well, I don't go to, yeah, because it's I usually end up having which I had last night, insomnia. I couldn't believe. Well, thereby hangs a tale. So I've got a couple of things to tell you about. I had a lovely 5 kilometer walk. My wife and I walked for more than an hour over at Meadowbrook Golf Course.
Oh, yes.
Which is the end of Côte St. Luc Road, Westminster,
Mm-hmm.
and is a lovely old golf course right at the end of Westminster. And we decided to sneak on. They're not doing any work on it, of course, because of the COVID-19, but we decided we wanted to go with friends who kept social distance for a nice long walk. So actually, I will just take it from there. Because am I on sharing?
Yes, you are. You are.
Okay, good. Okay.
Here we go.
So this is where we went. This is what it looks like on lovely, beautiful days. It was a little grayer yesterday, but we walked for well over an hour, and I thought, boy, am I going to sleep tonight? I didn't get a bit of sleep.
Yeah,
but I'm still glad I did it. It brought up memories. I used to play golf here years and years and years ago.
Are you a golfer?
I was for a while, but that's a long. That's
boy.
My dad was a great golfer. Dad shot in the very low 80s. That's how good he was. He was a scratch golfer. But we walked along the first fairway, and then it's one of these courses that goes up and back down again. The second is back down and along behind Sheraton Drive in Montreal West, where people who have lived there for years have had golf balls come crashing through their windows. So anyway, the four of us went for a lovely long walk. We just kept on walking and walking and walking, nobody about. And thought, great, after an hour and almost 5 kilometers, I thought I was going to sleep last night, but I'm afraid not. But it was a beautiful, beautiful walk. You get out regularly, right?
We do.
Share.
Yep.
And keep your social distance, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're fascinated by my walk.
No.
Today is.
Oh, okay. Good.
Today is the anniversary of Vimy Ridge.
This is you playing golf, I was going to say, right? Yeah. This is me. This is me playing golf.
That's the way it looks after I've been through 9.
We can talk about that after. Of course, we're not making light of Vimy Ridge here.
No, but, it is, for what they say, for better or for worse, when Canada became a nation. Today is Vimy Ridge Day. It is not a national holiday, but it is called National Vimy Ridge Day. It is the beginning of the Battle of Arras in northern France, Picardy, beginning with the Canadian Corps blasting up there that ridge known as Vimy Ridge, which the Germans had been holding for ages. There was the Western Front stretched from the North Sea all the way to the Swiss border. You think of trenches going that far, it's a couple of 100 miles. And the Canadian Corps made progress where French and English troops, British troops, just couldn't move, hence the trench warfare. And the Canadians developed what was the beginnings really of modern warfare, blasting the shit out of the place. And then Canadian troops fall, and it was a dangerous thing. There were Canadian troops killed by their own artillery, and then Canadian troops following the fire. And they finally had a breakthrough in April 9 of 1917, thanks to the Canadian Corps. They basically developed, along with British as well, but Canadians take most of the credit, developed modern warfare, and it really did turn the tide, along with the Americans becoming involved in World War I. So it's quite a day in the history of this country. It's also Holy Thursday. You and I, being such observant Catholics, know about that.
Oh, yes.
Known as Maundy Thursday. Maundy is from the Latin word command.
Passover last night, I think, was it that Passover?
Yes, and Passover began at sunset last night. That's right. This is one of the rare times where Easter and Passover coincide, because of course the Passover weekend was when Christ returned to Jerusalem. But you're right. Passover began last evening, and it was also known as Maundy Thursday in the Christian calendar because Maundy is the Latin word for command, where Jesus said to the apostles, "Love one another as you love yourself." And that really has been the story of our friendship for 40 years.
That actually
Hasn't
has,
it?
hasn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Never any yelling.
We could
There's never any,
carve that into a block of cheddar
yeah,
cheese.
no seething resentment of
No, no,
anyone.
no, no. That's not like me
And
to be.
watched this on Netflix last night. Sorry, I just sort of sailed in and you mentioned something, so I thought I'd get going. This was produced by Steven Spielberg in 2017. Meryl Streep starring as Kay Graham, the publisher of the Post, taking over from her husband. Phil Graham committed suicide in the early 1960s. Tom Hanks doesn't look at all like Ben Bradley, but he gives a very good performance. I don't know if you saw it.
I have not, but I have.
The reason I saw
I
it
have an
was
article
just
from the Post in my selection this morning. But please continue.
Okay. It is about the Pentagon Papers in the 1960s, which basically said that American presidents from Truman, not Kennedy, but from Truman to President Johnson had been lying to the public about what was going on in Vietnam. And it's got a very good cast. Bob Odenkirk is in it as well. Bruce Greenwood plays Robert McNamara. And McNamara is found out to have said in the Pentagon Papers, which Daniel Ellsberg stole, that McNamara said they couldn't win, which he lied incessantly to the American public about, as did his president. So it's one of those stories that is a great mystery story, but it's a story of great dialogue too. And actually, Streep and Hanks are excellent in it as Ben Bradley, because Ben Bradley finds out during the course of looking through these papers that his best friend, Jack Kennedy, had been lying to him about Vietnam for years and years and years.
That's quite the story.
And Meryl Streep finds out that a very good friend of hers, Bob McNamara, had been lying to her about this. Anyway, it started on Netflix last night. It's 3 years old. It got generally good reviews, and we enjoyed it. It's 2 hours that goes by fairly quickly and is indeed well done.
Called The Post.
There we are.
Very good. Okay, I'll pick up on my stuff here because I have an article from the Post as well. Strangely enough,
Today's Washington Post.
I'll get to that in just a second. I saw this morning. It made me giggle for a moment. This is a story out of California. A woman was charged with licking $1,800 worth of produce.
And this is not the first time this has happened. There was a woman in Pennsylvania who did this.
And she
spat on the produce.
Well, this one licked her way through she had to have done some major league licking to get through $1,800 worth of produce. So I giggled.
I shouldn't laugh. They have to throw that produce out.
They do, and I giggled at the concept of the execution of that. But then you take a look at the mugshot, and then you realize that this
deeply troubled woman.
Person is not well, so it takes a bit of the edge out of that funny bit. And I was thinking about a piece I read in the Washington Post a couple of days ago, written by a couple of scholars who were responding to what Andrew Cuomo said a few days ago as well. He was calling the pandemic the great equalizer, and they say that it is not. And I agree with them because it is highlighting the disparities between the haves and the have-nots. And this is what we're seeing now. True. And we're seeing a shift.
Meant equalizer by that, right? We're all in this together, which is
we are all in this together. But no, it also serves to highlight the disparities between those who have and those who have not. Poorer people are more affected by this, even though it is unforgiving across the board. People of color and others are more affected by this. So I found this very interesting. And I'm seeing in all of the media work I'm doing a shift in the coverage now because people are now focusing on helping others, and they're focusing on the areas that need attention. And we have, again, let me get back to the projections. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They're coming out now. Ontario, of course, talked about its projections. Quebec, I believe, purposely obfuscated theirs to kind of keep them really, I shouldn't say on the down low, but Arruda was not in favor of publishing them. The premier was, blah, blah, blah. Other provinces are coming out with their numbers, and Ottawa just came out with theirs this morning. Take them with a grain of salt. These are numbers, these are projections, these are statistics, and you and I talked about this. It's like actuaries.
The difference between the low and the high, but the difference between the low and the high, if I still understand Quebec's correctly, are huge.
They are.
Because this is something that is moving, and I'm not sure if, well, you say obfuscating, and I may agree with you on a certain level.
I don't know
but
that's
also,
the right word.
They don't know, do they?
They do not know, and that's the whole thing. So take it for what it's worth. I think Ontario went about it the right way, and they said, look, worst case scenario, if you want to be a dick and not respect what we're telling you and the advice, then this is going to happen. More people will lose their lives. But
and
if
it
you're
will
going to
go on
follow
longer.
Yeah, but if you're going to follow the rules, then things are going to look better. And that's the way the Ford administration went at it. Quebec didn't quite do the same thing. Ottawa has some big numbers out there this morning. Again, please take them for what they are. They are mathematical projections, just like actuaries do with insurance companies. Okay, let's move on to something a bit lighter here.
Because if I may, with that picture of Cuomo there, up until that point, I don't think he's made a misstep. He's been doing a great job.
He's been pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's interesting that Sanders has dropped out of the race.
But still won't throw any of his supporters behind. No. But speaking of dickheads, I think I'm finally going to say it. The guy's a dickhead.
Sanders?
Whether I agree with his politics or not. Yeah. I think he's acting like a spoiled child.
However,
he's always been this way.
I'll give him full points for pulling the plug sooner than later. It could have been sooner, but at least he acted.
A lot sooner.
So, yeah. Anyway, Cuomo, yes, doing a pretty good job. Now, let me get something a bit lighter, which what we're seeing now on the advertising side, and this is a couple of weeks ago already. A lot of the companies, the big companies, the top one is Audi. The one below, of course, you'll recognize as McDonald's.
Interesting. The Audi one, I just didn't, and then, wow.
Yeah.
What an interesting idea.
They're rejigging their logos. You're going to be seeing a lot of this in the coming weeks and months. VW, too, kind of played with
separation, right?
Yeah, with distancing. And somebody here, I think a Romanian artist played around a little bit with the Olympic rings. He's got the NBA symbol as someone reclining, looking at a laptop there, as opposed to being in the crowd, of course. LinkedIn becomes locked in. Of course, this is tongue in cheek, mind you. This is the Starbucks logo with a mask on the mermaid or whatever she is there.
Yep.
Good year becomes bad year. Nike, just don't do it. And need new name from the Corona beer company.
For Corona.
Now, Corona, strangely enough, Corona.
Somebody do this, or was this Corona who did this?
No. This is somebody who's having fun with these logos. But Corona sales spiked at the peak of the media coverage of the pandemic, and Corona, as far as I know, has since had to close its breweries because of the problem. So,
wow.
That's where we are. Yeah. So, and we've got this other.
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Please. Yeah. I'll just finish up here. This is a website based in Latin America, and this is an actual change in their logo. Mercado Libre has become Mercado Libre, of course, elbow to elbow instead of hand to hand. And Nissan, strangely enough, and this is quite recent, quite by happenstance too, has adopted and trademarked a brand new logo. And you see, it's quite open.
Oh, that's just a coincidence.
It is a coincidence, but it's quite open and quite minimalistic too. So you're going to be seeing these trends, I think, in the way advertising is going along. I'm sorry, you wanted to say something about the logos?
Well, no. I think they're fascinating ideas. I think it shows that people actually are thinking. And, that poor woman in California, I say poor woman, you showed me the picture, and obviously there are real problems.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think it was a woman in Pennsylvania who did the same thing. You're right about it, pointing out the fact that there are disparities, and mental illness is actually a huge social problem as well. And then there are Twitter things where maybe this guy has social problems too. They showed a guy, and I think it was here in Quebec because it was in the French. It was from La Presse on Twitter.
Oh, coughing on the keyboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was at a drive-through
Actually, he's down here.
they
There
don't
it
even
is.
show
He's
where
right
it is.
here.
There he is.
Yeah.
And he's horking on the ATM. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I use it again. It's a crude term, but this guy's a dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I'm
he's
sorry.
been taken into custody, and of course we're going to be seeing more of these things as we go along as people try to adjust.
But you
But
make
it's
a very good point about the good thing that this shows is the disparity in
yeah.
society. So there is some good that can come out of it. You make
And
a
I
very
was
good point.
listening to the mayor of Montreal this morning, Madame Plante, and the number of homeless in Montreal is on the rise now. The people in the shelters are seeing faces they had not seen before. So all of these things have to be addressed. And down the line, we're going to have to get together and work harder on volunteer work and helping those in need, because they're going to be, it's going to be glaring as we go along. Anyway, enough pontificating for this morning. I'm watching the
But that
fourth.
is also a good point you make about the fact that more homeless showing up, because they did talk about when this hit, there are a lot of people on the cusp.
Yep.
So they finally went over into the dark side. Are they using the Royal Vic as a place as they said they were going to?
I don't think they're using it for a homeless shelter. They're using it for medical purposes now, I think. But anyway, Montreal has been pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of Madame Plante, but they're keeping up. So anyway, let me go off to something a bit lighter. I'm watching the fourth and final season of.
I've watched a couple now.
Brockmire.
They're getting really weird.
Oh, it's quite strange. And this is the fourth and final season. It takes place in the future, and by God, he looks like you when they make him up with the gray hair. It's really cool. Oh yeah, I can't. I'll have to find a couple more stills here of him in profile. The actress next to him, I forgot her name last time we spoke about it. It's Amanda Peet is her name. She's a terrific actress.
She's the one who plays the owner, right?
Yes, and she's outstanding in this role. And as a off-screen, she's also a bright, articulate person. And speaking of bright and articulate people, this is my daughter-in-law, Kelly.
Ah, what a beautiful picture. What a lovely, lovely young woman.
And you can see behind her there, that's Elliot.
He is Jack Russell?
He's a Jack Russell. Elliot's 14 years old or thereabouts, and Kelly kept pestering me to show her photograph. There she is, and she is also a bright and articulate person, very much of a mensch like her mother, and no flies on her. A very hardworking and lovable person whom I love. So I just wanted to show.
You should. She is a smart and bright person, and a beautiful picture. That's lovely.
So there you are. That's
very nice.
That's what I've got for you today. I'm sorry to kind of lean into the stuff that you're seeing every day and bombarded with every day, but everybody, it's amazing how exhausting this is, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we both promised ourselves we wouldn't do this, but when you wake up every morning and it hits you, there are just some things, once in a while you have to speak up. Yep. And I think for the most part, I hope so, we've spared people the rough stuff, but once in a while something so ludicrous happens or so beyond the pale that you've just got to mention it.
And we're lucky to have what we have. We're lucky to be safe, you and I, and our respective families and all of that. But it's the stress of it simply is simply it exhausts you, right?
Yes.
And I have the same fluctuation. Some nights I fall, I close my eyes, and I'm gone for 6 hours. Other nights I simply cannot close my eyes and sleep. So it's so if you're among those out there, you're not alone. Try to stay active. We work out here, we walk. I do my yoga every day, and every little bit counts. So that I can assure.
As I say, I thought that walk yesterday was going to put me to sleep, but I couldn't sleep last night.
Yep.
But interesting what you were saying. A walk, especially in that atmosphere. This is a golf club, so it really did seem like the country idol. A walk is something you really begin to appreciate again, deep in these odd
just
times.
Getting out of the house. Yeah. And I was speaking with I'm doing some estate work here for a relative, and I was speaking with an accountant yesterday, and he is working from home for the first time in his life, and he's having a hell of a time, having great difficulty.
Oh, is it rough on him?
Yeah. And we spent more time talking about that than we did about the various affairs that he called about. And I said, and I repeated to him what we've been talking about here. Try to get down to a routine. He's got a couple of teenagers in the house, which is a different environment than I have. but try to get up at the same time, have your breakfast at the same time, get your walk in at the same time if you can, and set time aside for the kids and all of that. But if you sort of go about it in a kind of a shotgun way, it's going to make you nuts.
Oh, you're going to fray at the edges.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think that's where we've set a time, and we could really do this anytime during the day, right?
Yep.
And you decided to say, you mentioned to me in an email, let's do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not a morning person. We were doing it at 2 in the afternoon, but I was ruminating about it all morning. Now I know at 9 to 9:30, I've got to be awake.
It's like live
So
radio. The microphone goes
yeah,
on, and you
yeah, you got to be there.
got to skate on the ice, and that's it. So this is what
Because
I
I'll
like
be
about it
honest with
too.
you,
Yeah.
I came in this morning before we went on, and I thought, I've got nothing to talk about. And I don't want to talk about COVID-19 because my wife downstairs was reading the Globe and the Globe and Mail, and in every paper, every story is a variation or a variant of the same damn story.
Yeah.
And then I took 5 minutes, and that's all I really took. I finally remembered it's Vimy Ridge Day, and then remember the wonderful film. So we did have lots to talk about, and this has settled me down. I mean, I've talked openly about some of the problems I've had with lack of sleep and depression and anxiety. It's in a strange kind of way. My ups and downs because of doing things at a certain time have been less radical.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And the walk in the country, I mean, I couldn't believe how appreciative I was for a walk. And there were very few people there, but they were out there, and everyone was keeping their social distance.
It's going to be a long haul. It's going to be, the world has forever been changed, and it's going to be, but ride that surfboard and try not to spill your drink. Sir.
À demain.
Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.